Hey guys, Ellie here with Empirical 360, and this is the last part in our series on how to get more patients for your medical practice. And in this webinar, we're going to go over boosting your SEO. So we'll just dive right in the presentation here. This one is not as long as part 2. There's not as much live demo. It's more just concepts and very easy things to do to help your SEO. So the outline, we are going to go over 3 things, and there's a lot more things you could do for SEO, but these are the most basic things I could think of that almost anyone can implement. And we have actually done very, very basic SEO packages for clients, including these 3 things. And along with our page strategy, they've actually ranked on page 1, and you'll see them here in a bit. I have a couple snippets of their, their business on Google. So let's dive right in. The first thing is meta descriptions. I know this sounds kind of weird, kind of intimidating, but all this is a snippet of about 155 characters which summarizes your page's content. It's very, very similar to writing a Google ad. This is just the organic listing. So they look very similar to Google ads, they're just the organic piece. And here are some tips on writing them. You want them to be actionable. You want to have a strong call to action, very similar to a Google ad again. So something, like learn more or, whatever it may be. We want it to contain the focus keyword because this is what catches the user's eye, and Google also highlights the keywords, or they'll make them bold so it stands out to the user. So a very strong meta description will get more clicks, which is ultimately what you want when it comes to organic traffic. And then you want it to be relevant to the page content. Again, this goes back very similar to our page strategy where you keep the send trail alive. So whatever keyword they type in, you want your meta description to have that keyword. So here's a little snippet of, this is actually our client. So Tampa outpatient joint surgery is what we typed into Google. And you can see there, they are the first listing. It has the, a couple relevant keywords in the description itself. Very short and sweet, and it kind of just summarizes, what the business is. That's their homepage. So it's not very specific to any one service. So the plugin that we recommend for this, and there's a lot of them out there, this is one that I've used a lot of times for clients, is Yoast SEO Premium. It's only $89 for a lifetime membership. I think it's lifetime, don't quote me on that. But it's a great plugin, $89 again. And how it works is it helps facilitate the creation of your meta titles, your site titles, and all that. But most importantly, the meta description is what we're talking about here. So what you do is in this image here, you can see that it has a focus key phrase. So obviously you want to focus on the keyword that you're trying to optimize your page for, something that's going to get you volume and that's relevant obviously to your page. And then it has you write the meta description here, and what I like about it is it grades it and it counts the amount of characters. Again, most of them do this, but it'll count the amount of characters to make sure you're within the character limit. It'll grade the readability of it, so if you're horrible at writing, which I am, luckily we have a content writer, it'll make sure that it's well written. And then also it'll measure the keyword density in there to make sure that you've nested the keyword at least once or twice or whatever they recommend as far as how much to do. There's also a lot of other things in there, but for the purposes of meta descriptions, I really like this. It's very easy to use, very simple, and so that's what we recommend for meta descriptions. And again, this is a plugin that's very easy to download, and anybody can do it on anyone's website. So that's why we chose these 3 topics. So the next topic is blogging and adding content to your site. And blogging is very straightforward. It's a great way to build a relationship with your potential patients, and it's a good way to put information out there for people who are researching, especially if we're going back to our original example that we're an orthopedic center, people who are researching surgery. They're gonna want to read about it. They have very specific questions, and if you have a very active blog that's very accurate and easy to navigate, then they'll come to you for answers, which as you build that trust, they may come to you for surgery later. So it's very important. But the hardest part that some people think is where to come up with topics. Because from there, if you're a doctor or you're a medical practitioner, it's very easy to blog about your specialty because that's all you've done. So that's not the hard part. It's coming up with topics that customers are actually searching for so you can provide answers to them. So this is a great tool that we like to use. It's called Ahrefs. It's an SEO tool. And if you go there, it's, they charge $179 a month for a membership. It may be cheaper for a lesser plan, but this is one that we like to use for our clients to analyze all their websites. And you go to Keyword Explorer and you'll get a screen that somewhat looks like this. And then you type in the target keyword. So let's assume that we're looking for hip replacement keywords. We're sticking with the original example of part 2 in this webinar series. And you click on questions. And so what this does is it will bring up all the questions that are very common around this key phrase that we're trying to optimize for. And it'll tell you how much volume is associated with each question. And that gives you a really good idea on how to prioritize your blog topics. So you can see here, the top ones are: how long does a hip replacement last? Which method of hip replacement is the best? When can I bend more than 90 degrees after hip replacement? It doesn't all have to be, pre-hip replacement. You can talk about post-hip replacement, rehab and things like that. Again, you want this to be an informational center for your patients so they look at you as a trusted resource. So this is a great way to come up with topics and let pretty much this thing tell me who is searching for what and how much are they searching for it, because then I know that these are keywords that I want to rank for. So once you have all these blogs, that's great. The problem with that is, how do you get traffic to these blogs? And again, this is why we did this 3-part series, is because all these components work together. So if you have all these blogs and they're just sitting there, chances are you're not going to get much traffic. You need people to start interacting with these things so Google can recognize these as a resource for the topics that you've blogged about. So one thing that we recommend is you can sponsor this content on Facebook. You can also do it on Google. But Facebook is nice because we can target all of our website visitors that we're getting with all of our paid traffic and start to build a relationship with them as a quality resource for information. So every website visitor that we've had, we just create a remarketing list, which again we talked about in part 2, and then we can start to sponsor our blog content to those people, because if they're in market for surgery, chances are that process could take 30, 60 days, depending on how severe their condition is. But this is your chance to build a relationship with them and for them to see you on a regular basis, and that could bring them back to your practice. So creating an audience of your website visitors and posting this content to them on Facebook and remarketing it to them will get them back to the page, reading on your website and having quality interactions, which is what Google looks for when it comes to SEO, and this will help build your overall ranking. So this is a good way to kind of make sure all your strategies are working together and not everything is segmented. So having your blog content being sponsored on Facebook is very valuable, and again, it brings people to your site, which is the ultimate goal. So the next portion of this is adding location pages. It's very hard to just rank for the word hip replacement. But when you add a local component in there, which is how most people search when it comes to these things, they tend to append locations to their searches, so Tampa hip replacement or whatever it may be. It makes it that much more relevant for the user, and it also adds context as to where you guys are located. And this is a technique that we like to use. We like to build out location-specific pages for either the procedures, but as much location-specific content as you can, because again, it's very relevant to the end user and it's easier to rank for. Also, when you do this, you don't have to do it all at once. So if you have an initial sitemap of 5 pages and then you start adding location pages, it's good to have pages added to your website because Google sees that you're still alive and well, and they see, okay, they're adding regular content, and that's what they like. Another key topic here with the location specific pages, if your pages are conversion friendly, these are great landing pages for you because again, it's very relevant to the user. They tend to search with locations in mind. And if you're serving them these pages, they can act both as, an addition to your site and a great landing page for your PPC campaigns. Again, so we're making sure all strategies are working together here. And then that also brings people back to these pages. Hopefully there are quality interactions happening, like they're filling out a form, they're calling you, they're navigating through your website. Google keeps track of all these interactions to make sure that, okay, this site is a quality resource for the topics that they're talking about, so your ranking bumps up. And again, this is a gradual process, but this is, the biggest thing is making sure that Google sees you as a quality resource and you're getting quality interactions, which is why it's important to have traffic go to these pages. If you make these pages and they're just sitting there and they're not really doing much, they're not going to do much for you overall for your SEO strategy. So a potential sitemap could be, you have your homepage, your About Us page, your procedures, and just having them be location specific can really help you. So Tampa hip replacement, Tampa knee replacement, Tampa ACL repair, and then you have your different locations that you may serve, and then you can build out procedures based on those locations. So if you serve 5 locations, you could have a procedure page for each of your procedures for each of the locations. It can get out of hand pretty quick, but that's a basic example of how it could work. So the last component of this, and again, I only chose these 3 because they're very, very easy to implement, and it could take a day to implement all this. Not necessarily, but it's very quickly and very easy for almost anyone to do with not a lot of web experience. So reviews are a big, big portion of having your business look good on Google. And the reason I say this again is because we did this with our client and it worked wonders for them. They ranked #1 in a very short time. So you can see Tampa outpatient joint surgery, our client comes up, and on the right-hand side, they already have 50 Google reviews, and they've been in business for a very short time. But we've used review platforms to reach out to his patients, people who have had good experiences with the practice, and it helps his overall ranking. So I highly recommend getting reviews, not only from people who are researching you and considering you, it really helps, but it also makes your appearance look great on Google. Some of the review platforms that I recommend, these are 3 that I've had some experience with. Podium is great. It facilitates the reviews via text message, which is a very, very nice feature because a lot of people text these days. It is a little more expensive. I believe it's a couple $100s a month. The only thing I don't like about it is they make you sign a 12-month agreement. So that's just, I don't really like things that lock you into contracts, but it is a very good platform, and I believe Google owns this platform, so if they probably like you using it. It also pulls dynamic reviews and things like that, so it's very, very useful. Relation is another one. Again, this is very similar. You can text people, get reviews from that. You can email them after they visited your practice and collect reviews that way. And reviews.io is the same. So this is, I think this is probably the cheapest option. It's like $89 a month. No long-term contracts. They have the same text messaging capability and the same email capability. Again, they're all very, very similar. They're going to do most of the same thing, but here are just a couple options for you to consider when it comes to collecting reviews. So the features, like I just talked about, that are important with these platforms is the automated text messages, so you can have it set up to where if they visited your practice, you can send them a text 3 days later or something like that. Email campaigns are also great for collection, so uploading a list of all your existing patients and then sending it out to them in a blast email. It's a good way to get a lot of reviews very quickly. And the good thing is all of these integrate with the platforms that you want your reviews on. So they're going to integrate with Google My Business. They integrate with BBB if you want. A couple of them even integrate with Health Grades, Facebook. So you're going to collect reviews on one platform and they will post out to all of them, or whichever ones you choose, which is very nice because you're doing it all in one place. All of them have really good support. I've worked with the support on all of them. And then they all have widgets that you can add to your site, which really, really helps your overall site because, again, it's dynamic content. They're associated with Google reviews, so it's going to help your overall site's SEO. And all the widget is a little piece of code that will dynamically pull the reviews from the platform and have it circulate on your site, which again is a nice feature. It boosts the credibility of your practice, kind of like we talked about in preparing your site is having testimonials. So these are dynamic testimonials that are coming in as they come into Google or whatever platforms you're posting to. So that was short and sweet. Again, it was as simple as it could be. There are a lot more things you could do for your SEO, but at the very least, if you're sending paid traffic and you're doing these things, you're gonna start to rank eventually. So these are the things I recommend. They're very simple. Anyone can do them. You don't need a crazy web developer on staff to do these things, which is why I recommended them. So if you have any questions or concerns, or you want to know more about the advanced topics, like linking and things like that, schema data, all that good stuff, feel free to reach out to me. My email is here, or you can call us on the website. Okay, hope to see you next time. Thanks.